Good evening, everybody. My name is Nick Delaney, and I am your host. You are currently listening to Coffee Nick's Movie Picks, which is a podcast where I, your host, Nick Delaney, review coffee and movies side by side. Today, our movie review is the cult classic Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and our coffee review is the Orange Blossom Mocha, and that's from Lost Sock Coffee Roasters. It's been a little while. It has been a little while, and for that I apologize. Life has gotten completely crazy. Some things have come up that are completely out of my control. It's just kind of like a big plate of, here, do this. You have no free time now. Just kind of thrown at me, and I have to eat the whole plate. I have to eat the whole plate. Like in Mommy Dearest, I'm sitting at the kitchen table. I have to eat the whole plate. And if I don't, it's going to be served to me again for breakfast tomorrow. So that's all the detail I can give on that. I have to be very, very vague for the time being. But maybe in the next episode, I can talk a little bit more about that. And I truly hope that the next episode is not a month away like it was between episodes for this one. But who's to say? Who's to say? I hope things don't get crazier than they already are. But it's kind of like that early to mid 20s moment I'm having where I feel like the quarter life crisis is happening. I don't know if that's what it is, but it's like this is all happening. It is all out of my control, and I have to do it now. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? You have to do it now, and you don't know what it is that has to be done. I kind of feel like it is like a slate being wiped clean moment where it is like, okay, everything you've been doing the past 25 years, forget it. You're doing something completely different now. Good luck. That's kind of how I've been feeling lately. And it's like, wow, do I know how to do anything? Do I know who I want to be? What I want to be doing? I don't know. This movie is about podcasts. Oh my God. This movie is about podcasts. Undertone, that movie is about podcasts coming out in theaters this weekend. Maybe I'm talking about that. But no, this podcast is about movies and coffee. That's all I know. That's all I know. And someone comes in my room and pokes me with a stick and they say, hey, get in the stewed. And I'm like, okay, I'll get in the stewed. I'll record another episode. Here we go. And I make buku amount of dollars from it. Anyways, I hope you all are doing well. There's nothing crazy happening in the world right now. We're all fine. Right? Okay. Do you remember last month, my last episode for Lara Croft Tomb Raider, when I said that video games are like a nice escape for me, as they are with many people? Video games are a lovely escape. Video game movies offer a very similar escape into a fantastical, unreal, imaginative world where the things that are currently happening in our real world are not happening. So I felt so inspired after the Lara Croft Tomb Raider movies and dabbling back in those video games as well, that I was reminded of another video game type movie that I love dearly, and I have for many, many years now. And then a Nintendo Direct partner showcase, which I watch all Nintendo Directs religiously when they first air, that came on, and I just unknowingly watched that, doing my little escapism thing. And there was a trailer in it that shocked me. There is a brand new Scott Pilgrim game that just came out. And so I saw that trailer kind of like in tandem with putting out the Lara Croft episodes. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do an episode on the Scott Pilgrim movie. And I should do it like before it comes out, so I can like kind of hype up the game and everything. And here we are a month later, and I'm just sitting down to record the episode now. The game has been out for like a week now. Have I bought it? No, because I have unfortunately no funds right now. And I used what funds I did have, I used to buy Resident Evil 9 Requiem. So yeah, And I do plan on talking about that game more in a future episode when I'm a little bit farther, but right now I am stuck. I'm having a really hard time. I don't think I've ever been so challenged by a Resident Evil game, not even the older ones. This one is really challenging. It might be because in a Resident Evil game, I'm so used to kind of just like blowing through everything and like shooting at whatever. But the grace elements of this one, it is so. I mean, anyone who knows about this game knows this already, but it is so particular about the survival element. Like, you get handed a gun. It's the first gun you get in her side of the story. You get handed it with only one bullet, and it's like, okay, great. So it's like, it's kind of that thing where it's like, yeah, you have a gun, but do you want to use it? You know? So I will talk about that game more in depth at a later point, but I've been playing that. And that's another reason why I just haven't been super up to date with the podcast, I guess. Because when have had free time, I just really need to like turn my brain off and consume like a fantasy story. I've just been really exhausted. I've kind of been like working on other things in my free time. And yeah, I hope you can understand. So thank you for understanding. But I'm really excited to be back. And yeah, so all of this came together. I was like, I need to review Scott Pilgrim versus the World. This is a movie that means a lot to me. These are characters. This is a video game. These are comic books that mean a lot to me. It would be so cool to talk about this. And again, it's just like a nice escape from all of the craziness that we have going on right now. I have some notes, some general housekeeping things to address. Two series going on, Lynchian Picks and the Dollython. Definitely tune into the Dollython, which is the one that will be coming out more frequently. The first episode for that just came out, and there's also a companion playlist, so go check that out. It's a lot of fun. And I have a co-host for the series, Gavin, my dear friend. So, you know, some different energy on that series. It's not just me talking into the void all the time. And then the other thing I would like to address is that I most likely will not be discussing the Oscars this year. Um, I don't really want to. Is that bad? Is that bad? I don't really want to talk about the Oscars this year. I don't know why. I am just not really interested. And I'm not saying that to discredit any of the amazing movies that came out this past year, like Sinners, One Battle After Another, Begonia. So I'm probably forgetting a really big one. So many amazing, oh, Weapons, duh. So many great things came out this year, but I don't think I'm an Oscars speculation type of person. And I apologize. I feel like if you are a film reviewer or if you have like a film podcast or whatever, you are expected to have opinions about the Oscars or like make a huge project related to the Oscars. And I just don't have the time or energy to do that this year. So if you were hoping for some Oscars content, I am very sorry. It is most likely that that will not happen. Okay, I think it's time to get into today's content, if you will. I want to talk about the coffee. Now, I had the Orange Blossom Mocha from Lost Sock Coffee Roasters. And about Lost Sock, this is a small batch coffee roaster located in Washington, D.C., and they are dedicated to sustainability and quality. I first was introduced to them actually at the Coffee Fest in D.C., which was a horrible event, a horrible event. And I was actually going to talk about that on the podcast, but it was during the hiatus and everything. I tried like 12 different coffee places there, though. And the organization of this event was so bad. First of all, it had like that weird pricing thing where if you waited closer to the event, it got more expensive, which just doesn't really make sense to me. But also, it was very much like they were really taking advantage of the people that bought tickets because the venue was not at all conducive to what was happening in the venue. It was just like way, 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 way overstuffed. It was really hard to walk around. There were not clear walkways because, of course, lines were forming for each coffee place, but those lines would form in the walkways. And then not everything there was even related to coffee. Yeah, it just was like really not well thought out or well put together. So if you see that like next year when it comes back up, I do not recommend going to that. But the bright side is I was introduced to some really cool coffee places at that event. One of them being Lost Sock Coffee Roasters. I actually picked up a bag of their espresso here and it was really great. But I also found out that they have an actual brick and mortar store. It's located in Noma, kind of between H Street corridor and Noma. Um, Really interesting. Like it's a very unsuspecting location, but I really like that because it's like a neighborhood spot. And it's not just like completely bombarded by tourists or I don't know, just foot traffic, like people getting groceries and stuff like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But it's very nice and private and it feels very intimate going there. Like it is just a corner coffee shop, even though they're much bigger than that. I like that small vibe and they do good business here from what I can tell. But they're really great. The inside is really cute, really minimalist, but also very clean, sleek, has some character as well. They sell all sorts of things in here. They have really cute merch, like hoodies and sweatshirts and stuff. And then they also sell lost socks. So you can go in and you can buy a single sock if you want to, in case you lost a sock somewhere, you can get a single sock here, which is so cute. They also have really cool coffee equipment, stuff that I haven't seen anywhere else. And they have a really great food menu as well. And also, one thing I like, I think I might have mentioned this about a place before, but one thing I like about this menu at La Sock is that it is extremely minimal. They have a very small selection for food and drinks, but it is one of those things where it's a small selection, but they can do all of those things really well. Kind of like Raising Cane's chicken fingers. Everything comes back to Raising Cane's. You know, because like if Raising Cane's had this and that and a fish fillet and milkshakes and I don't know, fried pickles and whatever, mozzarella sticks, it wouldn't be the same anymore. So that translates to Lost Sock Coffee Roasters because you know they have a few specialty drinks, your standard coffee shop fare, and then a very limited food menu. But everything you get here is going to be good. It's going to be tuned to perfection, high quality stuff. You can always expect greatness. What did I have here? I had the Orange Blossom Mocha, which is made with house made orange blossom syrup, chocolate, and espresso, of course. Very standard mocha ingredients. This was really good. This was really good. This is an instance of subtle flavors that I really enjoyed. The orange blossom was not way too strong because I think if orange in a coffee drink is like a very, very strong flavor, or if there's like a lot of syrup in it, it is not a good mix. Orange has to be a very subtle flavor. I guess it's kind of like because of the tartness, maybe. You know, you don't want like that citrus flavor conflicting with the citrus flavor of the espresso that might be there. But also the base, the kind of like thickness and sweetness of the chocolate kind of balances everything out really well. This was really good. I really liked this. I had it iced. I don't know why this just seemed like a drink that would be really good iced, and it was. So I highly recommend this. And then I also got food, which is really rare for me, but I got a buffalo cauliflower sub, um, which hello, it had buffalo cauliflower, carrots, celery, vegan tzatziki, and it was on a like sub roll because it was a sub sandwich. This was really good. I really, really liked this. I don't know what to say about it. It was all of those things. It was really delicious. It was very like hearty. Um, and it had vegetables in it, so I felt very healthy while I ate it. One thing I discovered, and this is not at all kind of like feedback for Lost Sock, what everything they did was perfect, and I have no notes whatsoever. I don't think I can have spicy food, especially like buffalo flavored, with coffee. That is just such a bad mix. Like something super super spicy like that with a latte. I don't know. That was yucky to me. So like what I did, I just kind of devoured the latte and then I ate the sub and then I like ran up to get water and then I, you know, cleaned that out. The spicy flavor, I had to wash that out. So I did that. Um, but yeah, so like keep that in mind if you go here or anywhere with spicy food and coffee. It might not mix well, or maybe you like the mix. In that case, I think, you're not gross, but like that, I think that never mind. Um, okay, I do have a really fun coffee thought today. And this is one that I thought of way back when I first wanted to do this episode. I thought of this and it just has not left me since then. So you can tell that it's a really important one because of this. And I actually have props with me here for this one, which unfortunately this is not a video podcast, nor will it ever be again. Sorry to those of you who enjoyed looking at my face. I did not. I did not. But I have three things with me here today. I have a larger bag that I got from Costco of Unreal dark chocolate variety pack. In this variety pack, there is a dark chocolate peanut butter cup, dark chocolate peanut gems, M&Ms, and then a dark chocolate caramel peanut nougat bar, a Snickers bar. This is very much like it's candy, but it's healthy candy, or at least they're trying to market themselves as like healthy in some way. I'm not saying this is healthy food, but it's called Unreal. On the back, it says, "So real, it's unreal. Gluten-free, certified non-GMO, fair trade ingredients, no corn syrup, no soy ingredients, unreal taste." And it says, "We started Unreal so everyone can enjoy out of this world all real chocolate snacks. We make our snacks with delicious fair trade chocolate, simple 100% real non-GMO ingredients, and no corn syrup, sugar, alcohols, or stevia. For real. And the taste is unreal." And that's from Chris and Nikki. So thank you to them for writing that beautiful description. Okay, so like what I can say about this, all of these things in this variety pack, I've tried them all. This is almost finished. They're all really, really good. These are all good. The dark chocolate peanut butter cup, especially, um, as you can compare to the Reese's cup. This is different because it is like a snappy chocolate. It's like a hard chocolate coating. Instead of a Reese's cup, I feel like is very soft when you bite into it. It like makes a very satisfying like click noise when you bite off a piece of it, which I really like. The dark chocolate caramel peanut nougat bar, which is compared to the Snickers. That's fine. I also like the chocolate on there, but other than that, it feels kind of like a protein bar for some reason. I don't think the nougat is that good. It's not as fluffy as it is in a normal Snickers bar. And then the dark chocolate peanut gems I'm going to get to in a moment here. I do like the color scheme of those though, which is blue, pink, and purple. I think that's very cute. But I think when you put it next to the joy and radiance of M&M's color scheme, cute devours gorgeous, or gorgeous. No. Gorgeous devours cute, Simple ingredients. That's great. I love fair trade certified ingredients. What's not to love? That's great stuff. Gluten-free. That's great. More people can enjoy this. Certified non-GMO. Good. No corn syrup. I'm sure that's great. Don't know much about corn syrup though. No soy ingredients. I don't care. Okay. Everything in here contains peanuts as well. I'm not sure what the deal is about that. I kind of want like a Mounds bar, or like what's the thing covered in marshmallow? That would be cool. Or just like a piece of chocolate. I always love that as well. I really enjoy these candies when I am having my afternoon coffee. Around 2 or 3 p.m., I start to get a headache and get really tired and want to take a nap. That's my body telling me it's time for black coffee of some variety. Not only that, with that black coffee, I have to have some sort of chocolate item. It may be a chocolate croissant. It may be a Kinder Hippo thing. Have you had those? They're really good. It may be, I don't know, something in the back of my pantry. I have no idea. Something chocolate has got to be paired with my afternoon coffee. That sounds so snobby and so like I'm a movie director or something, like harassing some press assistant to get me coffee and chocolate. But like, it is just what I enjoy, and I am going to. It brings me joy. Let me have this in the year 2026. There's only so little, only so much you can enjoy. What I want to talk about today, though, so the second item I have is a bag from the larger bag of Unreal chocolates, and this is the dark chocolate peanut gems, or M&Ms, that come in this package. Everything is individually wrapped in here, and this Unreal bag of M&Ms, we're going to open it up and see what's inside, or I'm going to, and you're going to listen to me react to that. Okay, I'm going to pour this out on my table. Wow. And already, the main issue I would like to talk about today is already making itself completely evident here. So again, I love the color scheme. It's sort of like a dark pink, purple, and dark blue colors. But I also love the color scheme for normal M&Ms. And also, the third item I have with me right here is a bag of traditional peanut M&Ms, name brand. This is the family size. I'm going to look inside. They're all in there. We have green, yellow, orange, brown, red, all sorts of different colors, and it smells great. Okay. Now, what I don't understand, Unreal Chocolate, is why when I poured out your individually wrapped bag of, let's just call them peanut M&Ms, they fall out, and let's see. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 peanut M&Ms. There are 8 peanut M&Ms in this bag. My family size, let's see. There are about 18 servings per container with 12 pieces in each serving. Let's do the math on that. 216. There are 216 peanut M&Ms in this bag. There were 8 in the Unreal bag. The serving size for the peanut M&Ms, the name brand ones, is about 12 pieces. 12 pieces, 12 peanut M&Ms is 140 calories. When I look at the item 1, the large bag, it has the nutrition facts on the back. 1 pack of the dark chocolate peanut butter cup M&Ms is 80 calories. So if 1 pack is 80 calories, 1 pack is 80 calories, and so 8 peanut M&Ms, the Unreal brand, is 80 calories. That's 10 calories per Unreal peanut M&M. And then 18 peanut M&Ms is 140 calories. So that would mean, I'm not going to do the math, but if this were the same nutrition facts as the Unreal peanut M&Ms, it would be 180 calories for the name brand. So the name brand peanut M&Ms are actually healthier for you. I'm not a professional. Do not take my health advice. The name brand peanut M&Ms are supposedly healthier for you than the Unreal ones. How can we make that make sense, please? Can we make that make sense? Now, this isn't to knock anything about the Unreal peanut M&Ms, but what exactly are they for? They taste great. I've had them a few times, but they do the same thing as the name brand ones. They are not as healthy for you. So what exactly is Unreal offering us that we can't get with the name brand one? Like I said, these are strategically individually wrapped. And for the Reese's and the Snickers options, those are just single wrapped. It's not like 2 comes in 1, and it is fun size. It is not like a huge Snickers bar or anything. So is all that Unreal chocolate, is everything they're offering us just portion control? Because if that's the case, I'm going to go in and I'm going to open 20 bags of these peanut M&Ms, and I'm going to have my 400 M&Ms. I do not give a damn. I don't. I just think this is ridiculous because when I have my afternoon coffee and I want a little piece of chocolate, I open this up. There's 8 M&Ms. Sometimes I've opened it up. There is 6. Yes, I count every time because I'm that bitter about it. So This is not healthy to me. This is not a healthy option. This is just them trying to control you. This is them pushing their version of portion control on you. I like to be independent. I like to do my own sort of portion control. I will open up my family size bag of name brand M&Ms and I will crush it. I'll crush it. I'll have half of it. Was that a healthy option? No, probably not. Probably not. But I'm not falling for some fake false narrative. I sound like some like conservative podcaster. I'm not falling for this woke unreal stuff. Um no, I'm not falling for that. They're trying to push some false narrative on me and I don't like it. I don't like it. And looking, their simple packaging, they're, I don't know. I'd rather have my fun peanut M&Ms with my little characters on it. My pregnant peanut, yellow peanut M&M. You know he's always pregnant and clumsy. And I didn't know he had a blue friend. He has a blue friend right here. They could be more than friends. They could be lovers. Um, okay, this has gone on long enough. We need to move forward. We have to move forward. It is time for me to talk about Scott Pilgrim. And much like the Lara Croft Tomb Raider episode, I want to give a little bit of background here because it is quite notable. So this Scott Pilgrim, it started out as a series of graphic novels which were published starting in 2004 and they finished in 2010. And there are 6 volumes total. These graphic novels were created by Brian Lee O'Malley, and he was inspired to create Scott Pilgrim after hearing a song titled Scott Pilgrim by a Canadian band called Plumtree. O'Malley was inspired by manga when he wrote this, but he considers this to be closer to a comic and more just styled after manga. And the film, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, is based on all 6 volumes of the graphic novel. Actually, that's not, I wrote that down, but that's not true. It's based on the first 5 because volume 6 was not yet released when this was put into production. So they filmed an ending for the film that was different from the novels. So if you read the novels, you're in for a bit of a surprise. And it also just kind of like dives much deeper into that world. I think the novels kind of take place over a longer period of time. I really recommend reading them if you have access to them. But yeah, releasing simultaneously with the film, there's also a popular arcade style side scroller video game based on the graphic novels. This one was really fun. I played this when it first came out and I really enjoyed it. It is very difficult. It's kind of like classic arcade style where it's very unforgiving. You have to learn like different types of like button combinations and everything. There's all sorts of like different secrets, and yeah, it doesn't explain anything to you. There's no like dialogue really. You're just kind of like side scrolling through these different levels that all end in a different boss and everything. I bought this game recently and I have like not been able to beat it, but I remember like when I first started playing it like way back when it came out on Xbox Arcade, I beat it back then. So it's really impressive that I did that back then like in 6th grade, but I can't do it now. Um so yeah, there was this video game, there was a movie. Both of those things released shortly after the 6th volume of the graphic novel was released, which is really cool. So 2010 was like a great year to be a Scott Pilgrim fan. But then it gets better. In 2023, there was an anime series based on the comics that was released onto Netflix. And this series features the entire original cast of the movie returning to voice their roles, which is really cool. And it serves as a continuation as well as an alternate story to the graphic novels, which is really cool. So you might be watching it and be like, oh, this is just a remake, but something happens in it that basically like shifts it into like an alternate story that kind of is like also a sequel. It's really cool. And I had some issues with that series, but story wise and performance wise and creativity wise, I loved it and I thought it was really great, and it was really, really cool that they did that. And that was also the same year that Fiona and Cake came out. I was just like really living that year. Just like kind of like really cool animated projects were happening. Yeah, just side note. And then now, I mentioned this earlier, present day in 2026, a new video game, very similar, if not identical in style to the one previously released. It was announced and it was already released. It is a new original story by Brian Lee O'Malley, and it's picking up after the events of the Netflix series. It's so cool. It's so cool. And I don't know. I, of course, have always loved Scott Pilgrim, but I would never say I've been like on the Scott Pilgrim Reddit, like reading rumors or whatever, because I always kind of think of it as like something that is finished and like nothing else is coming out. So it was like a really big surprise when the Netflix series came out. And then it was a really big surprise when this happened. So I'm not sure if you're like really deep into the Scott Pilgrim fan base, if like these things were kind of like the writing was on the walls and like it was going to happen and there were hints and everything. But this was a really big surprise to me when I saw it in the Nintendo Direct, and it was announced and also released just kind of like a month apart from each other. It's called Scott Pilgrim GX. And like I said, original story. So I'm definitely going to buy this at some point, just so I can experience that. But I also read some good reviews and that it very much follows after the first video game, which was also really good. Yeah, so really cool stuff happening for Scott Pilgrim fans. If you have not engaged in any of this media before, I highly recommend it. Wow, I highly recommend it. All of it is really fun, really great, and it's a great escape from the horrors of the real world right now. Okay, getting into the movie a bit, it is titled Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which only one of the graphic novels is actually named that. I believe it is the second one. To get into things a little bit here, Scott Pilgrim, played by Michael Cera, is an unaccomplished 22-year-old in an indie garage band named Sex Bob-omb. They suck. When he crosses paths with Ramona Flowers, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, he soon discovers that, in order to be with her, he must battle her 7 evil exes. The film was released on August 13th, 2010. It is directed by Edgar Wright, known for Baby Driver, Last Night in Soho, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and much, much more. Okay, a little bit about the ending of this, which I mentioned earlier. The last graphic novel, Volume 6, is titled Scott Pilgrim's Finest Hour, and none of the material of this final entry appeared in the film because the comic was not finished at the time. O'Malley did, however, contribute to the film's ending, and he gave like a lot of notes to the producers from things that were probably going to happen in the 6th volume. But ultimately, the film's ending is the film's ending. It is unique and separate from the graphic novels. There were also, I read up on this a little bit, it's kind of crazy. There were some ideas for the film's ending before production that were cut. Some of these ideas included that Scott would turn out to be a serial killer who fantasized about the gaming aspects of this world, which it's kind of vague. I don't really know what that means. And there was also an idea that Gideon, who is the final evil X, would turn into a Transformers-style robot. So I'm kind of glad that neither of those happened, but those were on the table apparently. And I also feel like some of those were explored a little bit in the Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, the Netflix series, because that kind of got into like multiverse weird stuff. So maybe they saved some of it for that, but I don't really remember. This film was critically acclaimed, but it performed pretty poorly at the box office. But later, it is a cult classic after all, it made its money back through physical releases. A little bit more about the box office numbers here. It grossed 48 million against a budget of 60 to 85 million. So yeah, that's not good. But since then, it has been on a lot of notable lists. It's received awards, nominations, and it is also highly regarded in scholarly articles. For something called transmedia narrative. This is something really interesting. So transmedia narrative or transmedia storytelling is basically a narrative device that blends a bunch of different creative media forms or techniques. For example, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World includes a lot of style choices that one would use for writing a comic book. For example, we kind of see things in panels, and there's like sliding between the panels, or we see little animations or text above the characters that's like providing context, like meanwhile or somewhere in Toronto. You can imagine stuff like that. Or the character at one point, Scott Pilgrim, he receives a one up, which, spoiler alert, later he uses to save himself from dying. He also pulls like a sword randomly out of himself, like he would in a video game. There's like weird jumps and backflips, like from a video game. Lots of other comic book references, or I guess just style choices. Really cool stuff happening here. And there's also a rumor about this movie, not a rumor, but just kind of an observation about it, that there is no blinking that happens in it. I saw this on like Instagram a few years ago, but they say like no blinking happens in it, so it looks a lot more like a comic book. I don't think that's true, because I went into this viewing kind of like having that in mind, and there is definitely blinking that happens here. So I'm curious about that, or like what someone was trying to say there. But yeah, all of it's to say that this is a really good example of transmedia storytelling, which I never heard about in my communications degree. So it was really cool to learn about here when I was doing research for this movie. This makes it a not just like a movie, but a really cool study of adaptation, especially comic book adaptation or video game adaptation. Even if you had never read the comic before or played the video game before, you can tell that this movie is obviously based on a comic book or a video game and draws a lot of inspiration from those mediums. It's not like Ready Player One, that, you know, that movie is inspired by video games, but I would argue takes very, very little stylistic or narrative devices from video games and incorporates it into the movie. It's very much still just a movie. So yeah, really cool stuff happening in terms of adaptation here. Stuff that I've never really considered before. And I think it's stuff that like you could only do using a comic book or a video game. I have trouble like thinking about how like a just regular piece of literature or a regular novel would use transmedia storytelling. The only way I could think of is that it would have like a narrator kind of voicing out everything that the character does or is thinking or something like that. So I think if you are studying adaptation or you want to learn more about it, that this movie is absolutely essential to that study. And I'm really glad that I was able to come back to this movie now with all of my education in media and kind of see it and appreciate it in a different way. The last thing I want to talk about before I get into like my actual thoughts on the film or notes on the film is just kind of like my personal relationship with this. I don't know why, but I was so obsessed with Scott Pilgrim when I was in sixth grade. I was. And I think it was because like during that time, I just wanted to do anything that like was deemed cool. And at that, like in sixth grade, when I was in sixth grade, Scott Pilgrim was kind of like one of the nerdy things that was really cool. And I was in sixth grade from 2011 to 2012. So, like, right after this film came out, kind of like following the heels of it. And there were some people like in my homeroom talking about the comics, reading the comics and stuff like that. This was also like the first year I was introduced to manga, or like I don't know, people reading graphic novels and like coming off as cool when they did so. So I don't know why I got the idea in my head that like, oh, I have to watch Scott Pilgrim to be cool. So I think it was my birthday in sixth grade, and I begged my parents, begged my parents to let me rent Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And I remember I was at our family computer and I watched it there in the living room on our family computer. And I just remember that so vividly, like the first time watching it on the computer. And I just fell in love with it. I don't know what it was. Something about it. I think it was kind of like the random kooky humor of it. I don't exactly know how to describe this type of humor. It's like Adventure Time early 2010s humor, like when memes were just first kind of starting to become a thing, enter the mainstream. Um, and like it's kind of like nonsensical humor where people say like made up words. It's kind of dry and it's like not really funny. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? It's kind of like that Adventure Time regular show type of nonsense, I think, was very present in this movie. So I watched the movie, I was in love with it. I eventually begged my parents to also get the video game on Xbox Arcade, which was pretty easy because my dad is a big gamer. So he's like, oh, okay, Xbox, I love Xbox Arcade. And then I think for a later birthday, or maybe even that same birthday, I was just like ready to go. I asked for the box set of all of the graphic novels, and I got the box set. And I still have that with me. It's still in my bedroom. And I read all of those, and I would like talk to my friends about them at school and everything. And I just like very vividly remember it. And I really, really appreciate this story. And I thought it was so cool. It taught me like a lot about love. It taught me a lot about like old video game references. Also, just a lot about art. I love the art style in these graphic novels as well as this movie. Um, in and the video game, in all of these things, the art style is just so unique, and there are such unique creative choices. And I didn't realize any of that at the time, but like revisiting slowly like all of these different things about Scott Pilgrim, like I definitely notice it now. I'm like, wow, this is like a unique thing. This is not normal. This is not like in every comic book. It's not in every video game movie. Yeah, and I've really come to appreciate what Brian O'Malley did create. Was that his full name? Brian Lee O'Malley? Yeah, Brian Lee O'Malley. I've really come to appreciate what he's created with this, and kind of like how he's handled it. Instead of kind of like milking this franchise for all it's worth, he kind of only revisits it when there are really creative ideas at hand. And like it shows because everything that's come out regarding Scott Pilgrim is like really worthwhile and unique and fun. And as you can see, all of the actors returned for the sequel anime series, which tells you like all of these actors, they wanted to be back. They had a great time doing this, and they wanted to lend their voices to these characters once again. Just really cool stuff. Speaking of that, and I think I'm ready to move on. Yeah, and all this time I like had not revisited Scott Pilgrim, so it was really cool to come back to it and see it with like new, more appreciative eyes. Back then, I was so into it though. I don't know why, because it's great, I guess. But I want to talk about this cast. This cast for this movie is so freaking stacked. Um, I'm gonna pull it up really quick because I will forget. Michael Cera as Scott Pilgrim, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Ramona Flowers, Aubrey Plaza as Julie Powers, Kieran Culkin as Wallace Wells, Chris Evans as Lucas Lee, Brie Larson as Envy Adams, Allison Pill as Kim Pine, Ellen Wong as Knives Chow, Jason Schwartzman as Gideon Gordon. Let's see, who else? Bill Hader as The Voice. I don't even really know he was in it. Yeah, it is just very stacked. And of course, Edgar Wright is a very, very notable director who's done like so many things. But it's just really cool that all of these people are in this movie. They all came together to like make something amazing. I really love it. I really love it. From the very opening of the movie, I was already kind of floored about like, oh wow, I don't remember this just being so good. The production cards and like the title cards are all heavily stylized, and there's like this really intense garage rock music playing. It's just like very colorful and overwhelming. And I remember like it opens with them like kind of starting their set, practicing their set and everything. And it zooms out, and they're like in this really, really long room. And then it cuts to like the title card, and it's just like very intense and flashy and in your face. And there's like screaming and stuff. And it's just so cool. And I feel like this is all you need to see to know exactly how creative the film that you're about to watch is. Um, it's so cool. It's so, so, so cool. One thing that also struck me as I revisited this movie in the year 2026 was just like how not bad, but how odd some of the jokes are. Like the whole thing with like Scott dating a high schooler. So Scott is 22 and he's dating Knives Chow, who is 17 and who goes to a Catholic high school, which of course they like poke fun at that in the movie. And watching this in the year 2026, when we have everything we have going on in our current events, this was just not as it's just not enjoyable. It was just not enjoyable. It wasn't really funny anymore. The oh my gosh, you're dating a 17-year-old joke, you're dating a high schooler. It was not funny as it used to be, if it ever was. I don't think I was laughing at that in 6th grade even. Probably went way over my head. But it was like heavily noted that they like not only have they not kissed, but they never held hands or anything. So it's kind of like a very weird relationship to begin with, even disregarding their age, I guess. There's also like a lot of other jokes, quote unquote, in this movie that like instead of laughing, I just went, hmm. Again, this movie is from the early 2010s when a lot of problematic stuff was happening in the limelight, and people didn't really bat an eye. You could say that this movie happened before woke was invented. So that's not to excuse any of these jokes that are very eyebrow raising, but there are factors at play here. And this has to now be viewed in a historical lens. This movie is what, 16 years old? Crazy. Based on source material that is 22 years old. It's crazy stuff. But yes, in the year 2026, I was like, I stood up in my seat a little when some things were said in this movie. But getting on a little bit, iconic quote, "Do you know a girl with hair like this?" And he puts his fingers by his head. I really love that part when he's describing Ramona Flowers. The comedy in this movie is really good, despite the things I just mentioned. It's really good. I don't know. It just has like a lot of iconic quotes, very cult classic type of things that just stick with you. And if you watch this movie a few times, you'll just be quoting it for the rest of your life. I like that Amazon was in this movie because this is back at a time when Amazon was like still cool and like kind of hipster and like on the rise and everything. But Ramona Flowers is like an Amazon delivery person. She's not a driver because she roller skates everywhere, and she uses the subspace highway to get from place to place. But yeah, I just thought it was kind of funny, like how much Amazon has changed. Maybe I really enjoyed this movie kind of just because of like how time capsule-y it is, even though it's not even that old. But yeah, another thing I love about this is that this movie reads almost exactly like a comic book. I mentioned like how you can see almost like the panels sliding and everything, and it's almost like your eyes are going from one panel to the next. But the movie, it does that really well. It helps it just like simulates that really well. I sound so stupid right now. I'm so sorry. The movie, it just really like does that. The movie just does that to you. God, what am I doing? What am I doing? Yes, it does that. It does do that. And we already talked about that. I'm not going to keep talking about that. But there is that scene at the party, which is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And I just really like the music montage and like how Scott waited and waited and waited until Ramona showed up. Really great narrator in this movie. There is also a scene, I believe Ramona shows up in Scott's dream, and there is Legend of Zelda music playing, which I think I read something somewhere at some point in time that, of course, it is really hard to get the rights to use Nintendo's music in any movie. So it's really cool that this movie got the rights to do that. It obviously shows you that this movie is kind of like a love letter to nerd culture and to video. Oh my god. To nerd culture. This movie is a love letter to nerds everywhere. I'm turning into the comic book guy from The Simpsons. What's happening to me? What's happening to me? This movie, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, is a. Now I sound like that guy from the Muppets. Who do I sound like? Scott Pilgrim versus the World is a love letter to nerds everywhere. Who is that from the Muppets? I don't know. But it does sound like the comic book guy. At least I'm telling myself it does. Why this review is taking me so long? What have I been talking about? I think it was the M&Ms thing that really pushed me over the edge. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll try to edit this down in post. Um. Anyways, the love. I really like that. This is an incoherent review. There's no flow to this. There's no structure. I'm just saying stuff. I'm so sorry. Should I just vote yes or no? Should I just end the review now? Should I just end the review? Okay, let me get it together. Let me get it together. This movie just has an attention to detail that I really appreciate. There are there's all sorts of like eye candy everywhere, of course. I really like the set designs, like in that opening sequence when the room gets really long, or like anytime the band is playing, it feels like really electric. And the sound design is just really, really good. And I love how it amps up the sound a bit. It reminds me of Twin Peaks when they're in the pink room. Yeah, where it's almost like you can't even hear the dialogue happening underneath the music. And yeah, I think that's just like a really great way to transport audiences like to the room where it's happening. And also like the details of the band and like how the drumsticks are like taped together and the guitars are falling apart. It like just is like a really nice way. It's a really nice storytelling detail to show you like how scrappy this band is and like how they kind of do suck. And but that's the point. I really like stuff like that, especially like when they're like fighting up against the twins. They're juxtaposed with like this really, really cool band. It just makes them feel like the underdog, which I feel like is an important element of any video game. You're fighting like this huge, huge boss. Um, yeah, and this movie is almost like broken into different levels, where there's like a boss at the end of each level, and the boss fights like kind of have different styles. Like I feel like the one where he fights Chris Evans, it's almost like a quick time event where he like challenges Chris Evans to grind down that rail and he explodes, which another favorite part of the movie. Um, yeah, and then the one boss, like the girl who Ramona dated, when she comes in, Ramona is almost like a playable character and she gets out her hammer and all of a sudden like Ramona knows how to fight. It's just really cool, like something that would happen in a video game. And then the final boss when he like pulls out a sword and he uses his one up and everything. I I guess you could watch this movie from today's perspective and kind of call it corny. But I think it's really charming. I love this movie. It is so sincere at the same time as being like so goofy and camp. Honestly, it is a really sincere movie, and I really think it is like a love letter to all of these different forms of media, which it's really hard to balance, like video games and comic books and manga and movies. Like it's really hard to do all those things and to like actually translate creative elements of those things into the creative elements of a film. Transmedia narrative. It's really cool. Wow. 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 One question I have is like, could this movie have been made today? Would they make a movie like this today? And this kind of takes me back to the Lara Croft Tomb Raider episode when I was saying like, I just don't think a movie could have a big budget movie like this, like a big studio movie based on like an existing franchise or IP. I just don't think like a movie in those circumstances could I don't think it would want to risk so much these days. Which I don't know. Like, I think we need to get back to a place where like movies can kind of be more risky and more adventurous and more creative. At least I'm not saying movies don't do that anymore. Honestly, they're doing the opposite, I think. But like something like this or Lara Croft, I think because there is so much kind of like big studios surrounding it, like Amazon owns Lara Croft now. I just think there's so much more pressure on it and so much more pressure to not take risks or not be adventurous. And I think about this movie and like Scott Pilgrim and like all of the wacky and kind of like outlandish visuals and concepts and like how it introduces so many things that kind of are just like not even touched on, like the vegans and like how they have superpowers, and it's just kind of like wacky and campy. And I think about like if big studios would be willing to take that risk anymore. And I'd like to think they would, but it's just a question. It's just something to think about. Like, I don't know what it's like in a Hollywood studio right now, but I would hope that big studios are still letting creatives take risks with projects like this. So yeah, it's interesting to look back on, especially like watching this as a kid and like coming back as an adult. There's a lot of like different things to pick up on and everything. And this is a comfort movie for me. I watched this so many times. Like after I got it for my birthday, I watched it so many times. So it's just like really nice to get back into it. Also, just like I love the characters. This movie has great characters, great one-liners. Kieran Culkin is amazing in this. I really love him, and like how he's like seeing all those different boys, and I love his dynamic with Scott and how they're kind of just like frenemies. Aubrey Plaza is amazing in this. This role was just kind of like made for her. Um, Wait, Anna Kendricks is in this, right? I didn't say her earlier. Where is she? Anna Kendricks, come on up. Come on up, Anna. Yeah, she is. She plays the younger sister. It didn't even mention her. That's crazy. If you're asking who my favorite ex is, I have to say it is the vegan. I really love that sequence, and it's not only because we get the vegan fight and the vegan police. It is because we get Brie Larson playing, singing, performing that song, which I has just remained in my memory, in my mind's eye, since I first saw it. That song, when I watched it in the 6th grade, it formed me on a molecular level, completely changed me as a person. And thank you, Brie Larson. Thank you, Brie Larson, is what I have to say. And I'm so happy she's going to voice Rosalina. I'm so happy for her. Next stop, we need to get her to play Samus in a Metroid movie. Yeah, yeah. I can dream. A boy can dream. I feel like this was just kind of like a crash course review, and emphasis on crash. I feel like I just did not make a coherent thought at all, but I hope you enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun. I just wanted this to be a part of the podcast, so just let this episode be. You don't have to listen to it, even though it's done now. So thank you all for listening so much. Oh, Scott Pilgrim, I didn't rate anything yet. Oh my God. Scott Pilgrim versus the World, Nick Pick. Lost Sock Coffee Roasters, Nick Pick. All the stuff I had there, Nick Pick. Unreal Dark Chocolate Variety Pack, Nick Mix. The M&Ms get the Nicks. And then the real M&Ms, of course, get a pick because I love M&Ms. Peanut M&Ms are like my favorite candy in the whole world. Everybody, thank you for listening. If you would like more Coffee Nicks movie picks, there are so many episodes to go back to and listen to and enjoy. I probably have an Oscar nominee somewhere in my catalog, right? Do I? I actually probably not. But just go back and listen to some things. More Dolly Parton episodes are on the way, so stay tuned for that. David Lynch fans, hang in there. In the meantime, I'm going to be playing some Resident Evil. I also bought Pokemon Legends ZA, which I've been thoroughly enjoying. Yeah, and I'm going to be having a good time trying to keep my head above water. And hopefully it won't be too long until I do this again, because I have so much fun doing it. Thank you so much for listening. If you want more, follow me on Instagram. Okay, bye.